Okay, this is your work for Monday the 23rd and Tuesday the 24th of March. So we're moving on to a new chapter and we're going to look at the rise of nationalism and unionism in Ireland in the 20th century. Before we go into looking at the chapter, the first thing I'd like for you to do is to do a word exploration on these 8 words. So I want you to look at nationalism, unionism, abstentionism, solemn, covenant, fenian, passive, and resistance. I want you to choose 4 ways of exploring the word from this slide, and one of them has to be drawing the word. So for example, for fenian, you may pick definition, synonyms, sentence, and drawing. Once you have your word explorations done, you're going to move on and look at what the situation actually was in Ireland at the beginning of the 20th century. And essentially what was happening here is that Ireland was being ruled directly from London. We had no say in anything to do with our finances, our taxes, or how we ran our country. And the political landscape of the country looked very much like this slide here. So you had the Unionists, and they mostly lived up in Northern Ireland, and they basically wanted to maintain the system as it was. They wanted to keep the union with Britain. They liked having the Parliament in Britain, in Westminster in London. On the other side then you had the Nationalists, and they were split into 3 groups. The first group was the Home Rule Party, and they were led by a guy called John Redmond. And what they wanted is they wanted a Parliament in Dublin that would be responsible for Ireland's internal affairs, but they also wanted to keep the Parliament in London that would deal with external affairs. And they were largely a peaceful party, and they wanted to achieve their aims through parliamentary means. Next, you had the section of nationalists called Sinn Féin, and they were led by a guy called Arthur Griffin. And they wanted their parliament to be in Dublin. And they pursued a policy called passive resistance, which basically meant that they abstained from taking their seats in Westminster once they were elected. And it was kind of like a protest. And that's how they wanted to achieve their means of a parliament in Dublin. Finally then, the other section of the nationalists, you had the IRB, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, which is basically the precursor to the IRA, and you had the Fenians. And this was a secret society which had a secret membership. They didn't want anyone to find out who was actually in this organisation. And what they wanted was they wanted complete independence from Britain. They wanted a republic, similar to the republic that we have today, obviously plus the North. And they were prepared to use physical force rebellion to achieve their aims. Okay, so those are your sections of Irish society at the beginning of the 20th century. Your Unionists on one hand, your Nationalists on the other hand. Okay, so next what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to read through the textbook, page 231 and 232. And when you're finished that, I'm going to ask you to go to the skills book on page 131. Okay, and I'm going to ask you to use your retrieval practice skills to do that activity on page 131. So try doing it from memory first, no books, no PowerPoint in front of you, and then check your answers and see how much you actually remember. And obviously don't forget to fill in the bits that you missed. Okay?